Introduced by someone like Rohit, who's been my friend, my mentor, and I believe, and I bet this room agrees, the most effective consumer advocate of the last half century. Californians, I hope you know how lucky you are, and I think Susan made this point, that Rohit has your back. Or he's about to, July 1st. July 1st. To Susan and the CFA, thank you for this extraordinary honor. I am deeply touched and grateful to accept this award from an organization that for many, many years has been on the front line of fighting for American consumers. You know, it is profoundly humbling to be mentioned in the same breath as Philip Hart. Armed with the conviction that government exists to protect ordinary people from concentrated power, Senator Hart, as many of you know, was a visionary consumer champion, one whose legacy still lives on and shapes the lives of so many Americans. You know, at the end of his first term in Congress, years before he would spearhead landmark laws like the Fair Packaging and Labeling Act, the Truth in Lending Act, the Antitrust Improvement Act. Senator Hart decried the state of consumer protection in America. This might sound familiar. In Washington, he lamented in a 1963 speech, "Consumer legislation is still only a dream." So now we're more than 60 years later, and his words feel pretty current. Many of the guardrails Americans once relied on have been hollowed out. The CFPB, which reached heights under Director Chopra, has been gutted, occasionally rearing its head to hand pardons out to corporate crooks. Over at the FTC, the Trump administration has illegally fired its Democratic commissioners and turned the agency's attention to going after trans kids and their families. And the damage isn't just in DC. For Americans who have been cheated every day, the courthouse doors are too often shut, replaced by arbitration proceedings where the deck is stacked against them from the start. But this is not a moment for despair. Today we face some of the greatest challenges to economic fairness in our history. Surveillance pricing, charging the most each of us is willing to pay. Prediction markets that are enriching corrupt officials like George Santos while bankrupting working Americans. AI systems designed not to serve our needs, but capture our attention, shape our decisions, deepen our dependence. Corporate oligarchs who are exercising a stranglehold on progress from Congress. But here's the good news, and it's thanks to so many people in this room and the honorees tonight. Americans are fighting back. Across the country, communities are saying no to footing the bill for AI data centers. States red and blue are passing laws to protect kids from AI chatbots and to call out illegal gambling masquerading as prediction markets. Surveillance pricing nobody had heard of a year ago. Today it's one of the most active areas for legislation in the country. And of course, 20 states and counting have passed comprehensive privacy laws. We're not waiting for Washington anymore. I have to say I'm a little, sorry. And I have to say I'm a little biased, but I am especially proud of what we're doing in New York City. This year we've launched enforcement crackdowns against car dealers, self-storage warehouses, immigration services providers, and other bad actors ripping off New Yorkers. We implemented the strongest hotel junk fee ban in the United States. We took action against Uber and other delivery apps for underpaying their workers, and returned more than $500,000 to immigrant-owned restaurants who had been overcharged by the delivery apps. We proposed the first municipal click-to-cancel rule in the United States, and we implemented the strongest debt collection protections in America. Protections, and this is for the nerds out there, most of you, protections that apply not only to collectors, but also to debt buyers and original creditors. I want to be clear that we're not just picking up where the federal government has let us down. We are taking on the next generation of challenges in New York City. A lot of people have expressed concern about algorithmic wage setting, especially in the gig sector. But in New York City, algorithms don't get to decide how much workers get paid. The people of New York do. Today, our delivery drivers earn a minimum of more than $22 an hour. We have drivers making $75,000 a year, and they deserve every penny of it. Much has been written about algorithmic scheduling and how it burdens workers and their families, and it does. But in New York City, in two major industries, I'm going to add more, we guarantee a fair and predictable schedule, regardless of whether it's set by a boss or bossware. You get 3 weeks notice of any schedule changes in New York City. Much has been written about workers, especially gig workers, losing their jobs because of the whims of an algorithm. Not in New York City. In New York City, starting next month, we are prohibiting the deactivation of drivers and delivery workers without cause. Every worker who loses their job from Uber or Lyft would have a chance to appeal the termination first to the app, see how that goes, and then to our department, where actual humans, public servants, will evaluate whether workers were treated unfairly, not an AI system. And let's be clear, we did not deliver these reforms because tech companies gave us permission. They fought us every step of the way. In the city council, in the courts, they're still fighting us in the courts, and in the press. And guess what? They are losing, and the people of New York are winning on every one of these battles. And it's not because these fights were easy or because these companies were weak. They are not. It's because democratic institutions, and I think we all have to remind ourselves of this sometimes, democratic institutions still have the power to set rules of the road. They just need the will to use them. And I want to be clear that we're just getting started. I'm very proud to say that last month, Mayor Zoran Mondani announced the largest investment in consumer and worker protection in the history of New York City, boosting our budget by 40%, 40, over the next 3 years. How great is it to have a chief executive who appreciates, even in the middle of a budget crisis, the immense value that aggressive enforcement delivers for working people? Here in DC, budgets of the FTC and other key agencies have never recovered from the Reagan era. But New York City is showing another way. That consumer protection is not a luxury to be pursued when times are good. It is a core infrastructure for a fair economy. And I will tell you that we are putting these new resources to good use. I'm also very proud to share tonight that later this month, DCWP will be proposing the first rule in America to prohibit chatbot doom loops and give New Yorkers the option, get this, of speaking to an actual human. I want to also be clear, this rule is not only about eliminating a common annoyance for consumers. It's about recognizing that whether, and any of you who lived through the mortgage crisis knows this well, it's about recognizing that whether a consumer can reach someone on the phone can mean the difference of whether they can modify their mortgage, rehabilitate a car loan, or avoid a wrongful utility shutoff. I want this rule to be a model for the United States, and I want all of you to file comments when we announce it. So I'm incredibly proud of what we are delivering for New Yorkers. And I have to say, a little bit competitively, that unlike agencies in this town, we are not capitulating to the idea that technology companies are too complicated to regulate. We are not repeating the FTC's now infamous assumption that markets can self-correct. We are not leaving it to consumers to fend for themselves by reading more disclosures and clicking I agree. Instead, we are drawing bright lines. We are rebuilding the capacity of public institutions to safeguard free and fair markets. And we are demonstrating that local government can be a laboratory for how ordinary people can reclaim control over the economic forces shaping our lives. Tonight, I am honored to receive this award. I'm honored, by the way, that my partner Curtis, who's been my indispensable ally and counselor, kept me sane. I'm very honored. But I am as clear-eyed as ever about the road ahead. I know, as you all do, that it's going to take all of us to overcome the adversity we face. So in the spirit of Philip Hart, let's wake up from the dream and get back to work. Even in this dark moment, we have the ideas, we have the public support, and we have the tools and now the track record to win. We simply need the will to use them. Thanks very much.